Let's have a gander at one of AutoCAD's most powerful commands. That's the Xref command. The Xref starts the external references command, and it gives you the ability to link in a file to your drawing. Now, where is this an advantage? If you have a single source, say you have a floor plan that you want to repeat over and over and over again in different places with slight changes with the text or what are you overlaying on top of it, then this is a very powerful command because it allows you to do larger projects more efficiently. Let's have a live look at a project where I've used Xref. Now, Xref isn't just limited to other DWG files. You can also use PDFs and image files, and you'll see that in this example. So this project here, it's a live project that you're looking at, and it's a aquaculture project, and I'm doing a hatchery precinct. So there's lots of little sheds and buildings and dams and things like that, roads, access ways, land clearing for this project. So the site file is quite elaborate. This section that I've highlighted here, that's where the drawings are. Now these ones with the X, that's what I call the Xrefs. X for Xref. So I can easily identify they're the drawings. These are the things that link into those to create the drawings. There's also a bunch of images that are linked in to create the drawings as well. So let's start by looking at the overall site plan of this project. Now here's the overall site plan. I have turned the aerial photograph off. You can see the boundaries of the site. We have an existing processing building here and the design of the hatchery precinct here. There's a future buildings down here, future buildings here. A lot of work, and this is mostly built around the hatchery here, is done, and you can see there's multiple buildings behind those zone shading there. And there's some dams up there as well. Now, this entire drawing is made up of multiple Xrefs. So if I click on an object there, let's see if this works. Yeah, you can see that there's a Xref in there, and that Xref is on a layer called Xref Hatchery. And that's a good tip, I would say too, is put the Xref on an Xref layer. Don't put it on layer 0, put it on its own layer. Now I've used Xref Hatchery in this case. I can put different Xrefs on different layers and I can turn them off in that way too, as well as unloading them in the Xref command, which we'll get to in a minute. So you can see from here that one's linking in something called Hatchery Site Plan. Now to get into the Xref command, it's as simple as typing Xref on the command prompt and you'll get this box that will pop up. Now in Xref you can see up here you've got DWG, images, DWFs, DNGs, PDF, point clouds, coordination model. There's a few things you can bring in there. Now in this drawing, it lists all the drawings that are in this set, or in this overall site plan, which is basically all the Xrefs I have for this project. And you can see here that X hatchery site plan is in that Xref list. Now when you're in Xref like this, you can just click on it and right click and go open, and it'll open the actual Xref file. Don't worry about that with the proxy objects. That's from the land survey drawing. It's not shown in this file. So in this one, you can see I've just got the line work and the drawing of the hatchery precinct. That's just that one zone. If I go back to the overall site plan, you'll notice something about this one. You can see here we're in the user well coordinate system, and we actually do have the coordinate system in here, the MGA GDA 94, which was the local GIS coordination system that's used most commonly where this project is. So this project will interface, or this file in particular will interface with other GIS information that you might need to overlay. Like for example, zoning plans for land clearing, vegetation plans, etc. So back to our hatchery site plan now. That one is not. If I go UCS on that, you can see it and go plan. It's actually drawn just straight up the page like that. and it's got, and the 0, 0 coordinates there. It's not in world coordinates, and the reason for that is that this was being drawn and moved around and changes. One time it was this shape, and then another time it was wider, and one time these buildings were separated into 3, and now it's back into 1. So that was a lot of changes there. But this overall one always had things where they were meant to be in the world coordinates. So you could just grab that hatchery, that entire site like that, and copy it or move it, and you could just move it to somewhere else. That's probably going to take a bit because there's a fair bit of lines in there. But yeah, you can see it there. So that I can just move it around. So if I was a big change, I could just do that fairly quickly. And that's one of the powers of Xrefs. So you see I've got the hatchery over there. Let's explore that option. Now back to our hatchery site plan. Let's focus in on one building. So this is a Xref of that hatchery site. That's that little bit in the middle. And if you look into that Xref command, again, you'll see that there's a bunch of files that make up that drawing. So there's Xrefs within Xref. So that's what we call nested Xrefs. Now you don't normally do this, but for this project it was a very good thing to do. So let's look at just this one building, because this is the one that I just changed and quite a bit of things were updated on it. So that building there, I just click on it, and that's called SPF Broodstock Building. So that's it there, SPF Broodstock Building. Now you've got other ones in here, larval building, another broodstock building, got the algae grow out. The water wasn't built as a Xref because it was designed by others, but I could have done it like that. Now all of these files here are what you call attached type. So why do I have those as attached? Well, if I change that to overlay and I save that drawing, hopefully this will work. What that means is that's only linked to this one drawing. When this file is linked to this X hatchery site plan file is linked to another drawing, that won't come with it. It only is loaded into this file. So let's see if that works. So I've changed an Xref and it says it needs a reload, so I'll reload that. And you can just show proxy graphics on there. There is actually nothing there. Just can't get rid of that. And you can see here that's correct. So that disappeared. So if I go back to this one here now and double click it and change it to attach, go save, and then go back to the overall, it'll give me that little pop-up that it needs to reload, and that SPF broodstock building is back in the drawing. So that's what attach and overlay do. Now that so I could copy that, basically that H site plan in multiple places. Now let's have a look at that actual Xref there of that SPF building. Have a closer look at it. Now what have I done in this drawing? Now once again, it's not in world coordinates. I've just got an arbitrary coordinate there, which was probably the grid coordinate from where that center line of columns meet originally. I think it still is that case. You just got to remember where your 0, 0 coordinate is and move. And then if you do make changes to this building, remember that, because you might just need to move where your 0, 0 is in your other Xrefs. So in here we've got good layering, logical names of thing, F's steel framing, floor, etc. Now you will notice in this drawing that there is no annotation. There's no grids, there's no dimensions. So this is the Xref Underlay that goes into the drawing to create the drawing. So let's open that actual drawing. So we're going now into the file where that is, and that was called PPH Broodstock Building. So we'll look at this one first, which is the main architectural drawing for this one. So I'll go into paper space. Sorry, I was in paper space. I'm going to model space, and there you see it. There is our Xref in there. Now have a look at what I've done here. that Xref is on its layer called Xref. Now that's a strong recommendation to you. Don't put Xrefs, drawing overlays, onto layer 0, especially layer 0, and don't put Xrefs onto layers like dim and things like that where you want to turn it off. I would recommend you put it on its own layer called Xref. Now in here you can see I've put all the grids, the dimensions, the text. That's the actual drawing. That entire drawing there, if I go to paper space, the only thing in this drawing is the title block. So if I erase that viewport there, you can see that drawing completely disappears except for that sheet. So I'll just undo that, and that is the general arrangement floor plan for that project. Now we also have in there elevations and sections. None of those are actually Xrefs, they're just drawn into this drawing, except for this very last one here, which is the broodstock building with the louver set out. Now I've done a trick in there which is pretty cool. So this came after it was built. They wanted to put some extra louvers in, so I did a separate drawing to show how to set out louvers for airflow from the mechanical designer. Now that Xref there is the same as that Xref over there, and that's one beauty of Xrefs. You can copy them inside a drawing multiple times, which is pretty cool. So I'll just copy one there anywhere randomly, and you can see I'm having a little bit of a problem with the memory on the computer at the moment, but it's getting there, but not super fast. So you can see I've got multiple copies. So the beauty here is, of course, if I change something in here, say I just draw something really weird, yeah, just draw a rectangle through the section there, and I save that. So just do a Q save or quick save. That's saved. Now I'll go back to my architectural drawing. It gives me, once again, broodstock's been updated, so reload that. Now there is another way you can reload an Xref too, is if you actually go into the Xref command, you can just go reload, right click on that and then go reload. There's another way of doing it. You don't always, if you miss that update there, it's not the end of the world. You can also close and open the drawing again, and the Xref will be updated. It's always updated when you open a drawing. So you can see there, everywhere that Xref appears, that line has appeared. So that's pretty cool. So you can see the power there of Xref. One change can be replicated throughout. Now with this Xref, this one here is just straight the layers as it came in. Now the louver set out one is quite different. Now what have I done there? You can see it's grey, and this one's colour. So if I go a preview of that, hopefully it's already set up the plot preview. So you can see here there's some true type colours coming out there, represent water, and there's different line work. So that's what that drawing will look like when it goes to paper or PDF print. If we go to the louver set out one now and go preview there, you can see that the background is grey. I'm trying to make the louvers pop, which it has successfully done. So how did I do that? Well, if I go back to paper space, if you double click into your viewport, you've got that viewport activated. And if you type in LA for the layer commands, you can see that there will be some options here. Now you've got here you've got on, which most people would know about. You've got another one called freeze, but there's one here called VP freeze. I haven't used that at all in this one, but that's a viewport freeze. So you can control stuff in there. Now you can control the color here. Now that color there will change for the whole drawing. But then there's another one here called VP color, viewport color, which is just for this viewport. Now if I go to my Xref, so here's my Xref. So first of all, in the layer command, it lists the name of the Xref that comes in, and then it's got the layer. Now I've frozen some layers in there, so that's global, because I don't want some things in this drawing which are used in other drawings. But you can see, compare these color and VP color. So the VP color for some layers is color 253, which prints out gray and shaded in this. So that's how you can control Xref colors. You've also got, if you explore this more, you've got a viewport line type where you can do an override just for an individual viewport, and a VP, what letters have I been saying? VP line weight. I don't know what letters I've been saying, but viewport. So that applies not only to Xrefs, but to any line work that's in your drawing, but you can use it for both there. So that's how that drawing's set up. So that's the main architectural set. Now I had to do some concrete setouts as well. So let's have a look at that, and I put that in a separate drawing. So this is where good layering is important, because in the Xrefs here of the concrete setout plan, there were some things we turned off. Like, for example, the kitchen, the plumbing. There's only the hole in the concrete. We only want to see the concrete here. We don't want to see all the other things like the tanks, the plastic tanks, the sinks, the fridges, all the other bits and bobs. So there's some good layers in there, Xref over, and if we go to that view, if we go to layer there, that would be controlled probably in the top. Yes, I did it in the freeze because this is its own drawing, and they're all freeze. So that applies to the whole drawing. So freeze, I only use on and off for temporary workflow. Freeze is for permanent settings. That's what those two things are best to use for. And once again, I've got that Xref layer there that Xref is on, and you can see there's quite a fair bit of dimensioning there overlaid onto that. And then once again presented in paper space on an A3 title block to print out. And this one's at 1 to 100, so it's got a match line on grid 6, and it's over 2 sheets to do the concrete set out for the floor of this building. So that's fairly cool, power of Xref. So how many places have we seen it so far? That one file, it's in that drawing, that one base drawing, it's in this base site plan. That base site plan is linked into this overall site plan, which is this zone here, not this one, but just this one. And it's also linked, this base plan is also linked into the architectural set for this architectural set here, the general set, and then this concrete set out plan. So we've got a few going, but it goes more than that, because we also got the jig to do services. Now this one, like I said, I just changed this drawing, so I know this one's going to be wrong. Now if we go into this drawing, we can see that familiar shape again of that hatchery. We're in zone C. That B3 is our building. That's an SPF now, not a broodstock. So it's a different type of broodstock building. Now the Xref's updated. You can see the layering, the color's not right. It's not grey. That's because it's got a new file name. I've updated the backgrounds, but because it comes in on that Xref hatch site plan. But the line work, you can see, nearly is right, but it's pointing to a sign 1 there. And what's sign 1? Okay, that's for non-potable water for the sinks or something. It's just that it would be potable water there at the sinks, but yeah, it's not quite right. So there's a bit of work there, but you can see the power of that. You've already got the background already updated, and you would probably see it too in one of the very first drawings that we created, the vegetation clearing plan. Let's have a look at this one. So once again, we're not looking at the other areas, just this building. See, the site's got a little bit longer. That vegetation clearing's actually pushed out a bit wider there, but you can see the base is up to date. That's the latest. So that's the power of Xrefs in setting up a project. So you can use your imagination on how do you want to draw that. Now I'm going to touch on a few other things now that can be a problem. Now one thing is draw order. Now draw order command. Sometimes you'll have at the front, and see how the text there now is not super clear. It's got the line work getting in the way a little bit there. Now that piece of text actually has a background mask on it, but you can't see it. Now often what that problem is draw order. So if I type in draw order and then click on my Xref, or that one object, and put B for back, you can see now that it changes, that it'll print out right. So if you see some weird printing like that, it could be a bit weird because of that. Now the other one to keep in mind is CD order. Now CD order is a color order. Now let's see if I can replicate that issue. So let's just say that that is the front. I probably won't be able to replicate that issue because I've got hatch transparency at 70% to show that there's water there. But CD order is color order, and CD order, if you select a bunch of objects, it'll give you an approximation in 255 color set of what your RGBs are. Now I always want those ones at the back, but I'm just going to give you one tip here. Watch this modified blocks one. If you tick that on and do it to your whole project, it can bust your drawing. It can make the blocks slightly rotate, so just be careful of that. So that one just sends to the back. So just keep that in mind. So draw order and CD order to if things aren't presenting right. Now we've talked about layers. I want to talk now about how, if you wanted to send, say, this concrete set out drawing as a single file without the Xrefs, what do you do? Well, in Xref, if you type in Xref Command and click on the Xref, there's a thing called bind, which isn't working on that one for some reason. Why isn't that working? I'm not sure. Let's go to another one. Let's just close all of these things, close all, and just save it. That's what they always say, don't they? Just turn it off and on again. So what I'm going to show you here is how you can bind an Xref to a drawing so it's a single file to send. Now that might be something you'd like to send if you're sending it to a consultant, or if you say you're sending that site plan to the land surveyor to set out, you might just bind the whole thing so it's one big mega file. So let's open our SPF building drawing, and we'll try that building. So I did send this one the other day, so I know that one works. So I'd like to have no Xref, just a single file. So first of all, I would normally go save as, and I would put it in a location where I would like to save it. Now I normally put on the end a date, so 15th of the 2nd, 2021, so you know it's not part of the main set. Now when you get this, it'll say, do you want to update the paths? So I'm going to say don't update paths yet, and I should have talked about that before, but let's have a look at this Xref command now. And in further out in this Xref command, you'll see this save path, and it's got /. That means it's just using the file that it finds in that same directory as that file is, that drawing file. There's a few orders of levels there. AutoCAD can find an Xref if it's in the same drawing folder as the one that you've opened. It can also find it in a what we call a, what do they call it again? If you type in config in files, a support file search path, it can, if it's one in there, it'll find it. And the other one it'll find it is if it's, this is called relative path. If it's direct path, it'll find it there too. So in this case, I want to bind that DWG. So click on that object there and click bind. Now, there's two types of bind. There's bind as a bind and bind as an insert. Now bind as an insert will affect the way the layers are. So let's just bind it as a bind, and you can see what it looks like first, and then we'll look at the other one. So I bind the Xref as a bind. Now unfortunately images cannot be attached to a DWG file. You'll have to send those separately with the DWG file. So I'll erase that one there because I don't need that anymore. Now let's look at the layers. Now in the layers there you can see the bind has prefixed the layers that are from that Xref with the file name. Okay, note that difference. Now I normally use bind as a bind, which should make everything work correctly. See how that's still grey over here? Now let's go undo, 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 Control Z I'm doing here. Here's one tip you could do: undo and enter how many times? 5. Okay, that looks good enough. So you can speed up undoing that way. So now I'm back in the Xref command. I'm going to bind as a insert, and that'll change it again. Okay, bind as an insert. What does that do? Let's erase that one again. My marker, and type in layer. And what's in here? See, the layers are merged with the layers that are already in the drawing. They don't prefix it with the file name of the Xref. Now where that can be a problem is, see how that's not grey? Because they're not unique layers anymore, it's taking the default setting of the layers in the project. So for that reason I always bind Xrefs as a bind, which keeps the integrity of the original drawing set, not as an insert. But there's reasons you might want to use insert too. So there's an overview of Xref. Xref command, one of the most powerful AutoCAD commands. Use it in large projects to speed up your work by centralizing your drawing. So you can make one change in one place and it can be replicated throughout your drawing set.